Right, guys, in the previous video we learned how to design our character. We're able to design this character from our previous video. All right, guys, so in this module we're going to be first introduced to proper character animation. And before we could get to proper character animation, we'll learn how to do rigging, how to rig a character. That means to add bones to your character, how to connect different parts, bind different parts of the character to a bone. And in some previous modules, we've talked a little about how to do rigging, how to do basic rigging. But in this video, we're going to get into something more difficult, right? So in order for us to be able to um, animate our character, we'll first learn how to rig the character. Okay, so let's get into rigging. But to do that, I want to show you guys first of all a first part of animation. There's what we call point or layer animation. That doesn't necessarily need anything bones. You don't need a bone to do layer animation or point animation. Okay, we've talked a little about that in the previous video, but let me show you guys one or two things. Okay, so let's start with the head. So this is our head layer. Okay, so we can animate this head without having to rig it with a bone. So we can move to any point in our timeline, and then we can move this head around, and then we can scale it, move it around, rotate it, all right? And then when we come, we can see that we have an animation because we have keyframes that recorded the modification we made to this head, right? So we can do that. First thing I want you to do is you can see that the origin of this layer is somewhere here. We don't want the origin to be somewhere here. We want it to be at the possible place where the pivot for this head is supposed to be located. So to change the origin, I'm going to go ahead and delete those keyframes. To change the origin of a particular layer, we'll have to select the set origin tool, and we'll click and select the point on the layer where we want the origin to be. Now, the point of rotation of this layer is going to be at this point. Okay, so you can see we have our head rotating in the place we want it to rotate. Also, when we scale, it's going to scale at that particular position, right? So I'll go ahead and reset this. Okay, so that's it, guys. We can rotate this, animate this head without using any bone. All right, so the same thing we did for the head, let's do it for the hands too. So for the right arm, we're going to set the origin to somewhere at the shoulder here. You can see when we rotate this hand, it's not rotating in the right um, position. So I'm going to undo. Now I'm going to have the origin somewhere here at the shoulder. All right, so when we go ahead to rotate the layer, you can see that the hand is rotating in the right position. Okay, so you can see right now we've already had an animation done for these hands. Okay, let me do the same for the other arm. For the left arm, set the origin here, and then for the legs, I'm going to set the origin somewhere here, then here. Okay, for the torso, I need the origin to be somewhere here. I'm assuming the pivot for the body is somewhere here, or the center of mass of the body, so that when I rotate the torso, it will rotate somewhere along this axis. Okay, Alright guys, and then let's work on the waist. I also want it to be somewhere, the origin to be somewhere here. Okay guys, so you don't necessarily have to do this. I'm just doing it to show you how you can do layer animation. Now we can just go ahead and animate this layer. We could rotate this part, rotate this arm, oops, rotate this arm, rotate this arm as well, make a rotation to the legs. Okay, so if you see now we already have an animation. This is not the most convenient way to make an animation, but I'm just showing you guys what we call layer animation. So right now we are animating this layer, right? So it depends on the complexity of your animation. In some points you will have to use layer animation. Some points you use point animation. Some parts you use bone animation. Okay. So haven't done that. Let's look at what we mean by point animation. Point animation is I'm going to go ahead and clear all the animation from this layer. So I'm going to come here, say animation, clear animation from layer. It's going to ask me and I'll say yes. So I've deleted every keyframe from this layer. Okay, so point animation is um, making some modification to the point, not on the layer. You know, this is a layer. While within the layer, we have some points and some vector. So I'm going to make this part of the hand to rotate. So to do that, I'm going to select this, use the transform point to select the hand, select the arm by clicking it. I'm holding down my shift key now to click and select multiple. Right, so here I can rotate this. So we have some animation to the hand. Again, this is not the best um, way to animate a layer, but I'm just showing you guys all the possible things you can do to your layer for animation in Moho. Right, so the same thing is applicable to the head. I'm going to come to the head layer. I'm going to highlight, hold down my control key, drag um, selection um, my selection over the head. So from here you can see guys, I can rotate the head and move it around. Now I'm doing point animation. You can see I'm moving the point on the head around. We can decide to open the mouth little. So I can drag this down and drag this down. Okay. So you can see we have the mouth opening and closing. So that's what we call point animation. We are making modification to each of these points um, in time. Okay, guys, haven't done that. Next thing I want us to do, I want us to get into um, bone animation. So to do that, first we're going to have to convert this layer, the layer that contains all the parts of this character. We're going to have to convert it to a bone layer, just like we did in a previous module. So to do that, I'm going to right click this and say convert to bone layer. All right, guys, you can see that our layer now has this icon beside it showing that it's now a bone layer. So we can go ahead and start adding bones to this character. So first of all, I'm going to draw my base bone. This bone usually is meant to be drawn at the point of center of mass for your character, which is usually at the waist. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding bones on different parts of the body. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3. This bone is going to control the head. This is going to control the chest. This is going to control the stomach area. All right. So if we check, we can see that this bone is parented to this. This is parented to this. This is parented to this. The direction the arrow is facing shows where the parents are. Okay. So now I'm going to start adding bones for the hand. So I'm going to select this bone. Any bone I select, when I start adding bones, the bones are going to be parented to the bone I selected. So right now this bone is selected. So I'm going to add a bone here, here, then here. Okay, so if we check, we can see that this bone is parented to this. This is parented to this, like that. So let me go ahead and add more bones to the other parts. So I have this bone to control this place. Add this, add this. Right, guys, so let me go ahead and add bones for the legs. Right, guys, so we've done that. So we already have our bones in different places. If you check, you could see that by moving this bone around, we can already have some, can already start animating this character. We did that when we learned about how to animate pictures in Moho. So you guys, you can see that we have some rigging on this character. However, that's not what we want to do at this time. This time, I want to learn how we can bind only specific parts of a character to specific bones. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to turn off all the bone strength for all of these bones. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to highlight all these bones, come to bone strength and set it to 0. So you can see now um, there's no strength on either of these bones. To confirm that, if I move the bone around, you can see that the bone is not affecting any part of this our character. Okay, so what we're going to do, guys, we're going to learn first of all what we call layer binding. You can see we're going to see how we can learn and bind a particular layer to a particular bone. Okay, so let's start with the head. First, we're going to bind the entire head layer to this bone here. Okay, so this bone, we can name a bone by selecting the bone, come here and name it the head. So this bone is the head bone. This I'm going to call it the chest. Oops. This I'm going to call the abdomen. I'll simply name this the base. We don't necessarily have to name the other ones. I'm just naming them so you know which bone. So this is the bone for the head. So this is the bone for the head layer. So I'm going to bind the bone for the head layer to the head. So to do that, I'm going to select the bone. No, I'll first select the layer. Then there's a tool here called bind layer. While I have the head layer selected and then I have the bind layer 2 selected, I'll just click on a bone that I want this head to be bound to. So I'll click the head layer. Right now it's telling me that this head layer is bound to this bone. That's why it's highlighted. So to confirm, we can move this bone around using the manipulate bone tool. If I move it, you can see that the layer that is bound to this bone is moving. No other layer is moving. If I move this layer, you can see it's not bound to. If I move this bone, you can see it's not bound to any layer, okay? So let's go ahead and continue with our binding. Next, I'm going to select the neck. So I want the neck layer to be bound to this chest. So I'm going to select this, bind the neck to the chest. Okay. Next, I'm going to select the, okay. So right now, we have the waist. So let me bind the waist first of all before I say what I want to say. So the waist is bound to this base bone. Okay, so right now the right arm, since we have multiple bones on the right arm, we don't have any specific bone that we should bind the right arm to. So if I should bind the right arm to this bone, there will be no way for me to move the lower parts of the arm. Okay, so you can see the entire right arm is bound to this bone, which is not what I want. What I want is for specific parts of this right arm to be bound to specific bones. Okay, so let me do that. To do that, we're going to be using, so to unbind the layer, I'll simply select the bind bone layer, select the bone and click on any empty space. So now this layer has been unbounded from this bone. Okay guys, so the next thing we're going to do is do layer binding. We're going to bind different parts of this layer to different parts of this bone, to different bones. So first of all, we're going to have to adjust this bone. I want this bone to be positioned right at this pivot. The joint, this joint to be positioned right at this place. So to do that, I'm going to use my transform bone layer, select this and move this up, then move this up as well. So we can confirm to see that the bone is right at the pivot. So the same thing here, I'm going to drag this down, position this, then I confirm and see that it's well positioned. So we're going to do the same for the left arm. I'm going to move this bone up, just move it up to somewhere you think the joint is located. Then we can confirm this is okay. Do the same for this part. We're going to move this down. Okay, then we confirm. All right guys, you can see that the pivots are in the right place. Right, so let's start with the right arm. So in order for us to bind just this upper part of the arm to this bone, first we're going to select the bone. Three things you have to do. First, select the bone, then select the layer, then select the bind point tool. Okay, then I'm going to highlight just the point that I want bound. Okay, but right now you can see that the lower part of the arm, some of its points are also bounded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to um, select this. I'm going to click to select the sleeves. Holding down my shift key, I'm going to click to select this. Holding down my shift key, I'm going to click to select just this part. You can see that the other parts are not selected, just this upper part. Oops, I forgot to select my bone. So I'm going to go back and do that again. So I'm going to select the bone, select the layer, then select the bind point tool. Click this, hold down shift, click this, hold down shift and click this as well. Okay guys, you can see that this part and the bone has been selected. Next, all I have to do is to say bind point. Okay, bind point. To confirm, we can see that once we select this bone, once this layer is selected and we select this bone, the parts of this layer that are bounded to this bone will be highlighted. Okay guys, let's go ahead and bind the lower parts. So while this layer is selected, select the bone. This is the bone I want bound. Then I'll select the bind point tool and click this part. After doing that, I'll select the bind point tool. I'll hit the bind point. Let's go ahead and select this bone with the layer selected. Select this point by clicking on any point, any part within the um, this shape, and then I hit bind point. So guys, let's test and see if our binding worked. So I'm going to move to a point on the timeline, select my manipulate bone tool, and then I'm going to try to move the layer around. So you can see guys, everything is well bounded and the joints are working perfectly well. You can see how smooth the joint is. Same thing here, you can see how smooth the joint is. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same for this layer. I'm going to be very fast. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to select this bone. The keyboard shortcut for this is I. So I'm going to hit I on my keyboard. Holding down shift, I'm going to click this part, and click this part. Okay. Now instead of hitting my bind point, I could hit enter on my keyboard to quickly bind it. Now I'm going to hit B to select for my to select bone 2. Hit I, hold down shift, click this, hit enter, click B, select a bone, click I to select the point to bind, and then hit enter. So guys, you can see right now that the other part of the hand has always also been well bound. Okay, now let's work on the legs. So for the legs, let's confirm that the bone is in the right place. So the bones are in the right place here. The bones are in the right place. So I'm going to select my right leg. I'm going to hit B. So for the select bone too, I'm going to select this bone. Hit I. Oops, I'm going to have to return to the 0 frame. So I'm selecting B. With the right leg selected, I'll hit B for the select bone tool. I'll select the bone. Hit I to select the point that I want to bind, holding down shift. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. B to select bone, I to select the points to bind. I'm going to hit enter. Same thing here, B to select bone, I to select for the select for the bind point tool. Then I'll select the part of the layer that I want to bind. Then I'll hit enter. Same thing here. Alt right click to switch to this place, switch to this layer, B to select bone, I to select the point to bind, hit enter. You're going to learn how to do this so that you can increase the speed of your workflow. So B here, I here, enter, B, I, enter. Okay, so I'm going to have to adjust this bone to make sure it's at the pivot point. So I'm going to come to my bone layer, select this, I'm going to move this up a bit, bring this here. Perfect, guys. So let's test and see that our character is working fine. All right, so from here, the hands are moving well. Let's check and be sure that the legs are moving well as well. Okay, our legs are fine. Oops, we forgot to bind. We didn't bind this point, so we can quickly fix that. Return to the frame 0. Select the particular layer. This is the layer. Select the bone tool. As you can see, guys, this upper part is not highlighted, telling you that it's not bound to this bone. So I'm going to select my bind point to hold down shift and click the additional shape that you want bound to this bone, and then click enter. So right now everything should work fine. Okay, we have just one point in the character that is not bound to any layer, that is not bound to any bone. That's the torso. So I'm going to come to the torso. For the torso, I'm going to add 2 points here, round points. I'm going to add two here because I want, um, since there's a pivot here, I want the upper part to be bound to this bone and the lower part to be bound to this bone. Okay, so we're going to do layer binding as well for this. Did I say layer point binding? Point binding, sorry, for this upper part. So I'm going to select this bone here. Then I'm going to select my bind point. I'm going to drag my selection area on the points on the upper part where I want to bind. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. Next, I'm going to select this bone here. Then I'm going to select the lower parts and I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. So right now I'm assuming that everything is fine. So if I should test that, if I move this around, you can see that our character is doing just fine. The CR7 is not bound to any bone, that's why it's on its own. So I could just select that layer and do a bind layer, bind it to this bone. So let's see. So right now you can see everything is fine, except that we have an issue here. Our waist is moving out. So I'm going to come down to the torso. This point here doesn't have to be bound to any layer. Doesn't have to be bound to this bone. So I'm going to select this bone instead, and then I'm going to bind this point to this bone. Since this bone is stationary, the points are going to be stationary as well. So you see, so we have nothing moving. So guys, that's it. We've basically done a binding for our layers for our character. So we can go ahead and start animating them. In the next video, we're going to learn how we could create a simple control for the eyes, and we also work on how we can make different mouth shapes the the character, so the character can do some lip syncing. Okay, so that's it. In the next video, we're going to animate this character. We're going to create some rigs and then animate the character.